An arrogant airport police officer decides that a fragile black girl is the perfect target for his provocations and abuse of power. He pushes her, mocks her, and repeatedly humiliates her in front of everyone, without realizing that Maya Jackson is not just an ordinary child. She is the daughter of a powerful man and is dealing with the recent loss of her mother. What happens in the next 10 seconds after he lays hands on her will leave you speechless. Maya Jackson stood in the bustling airport, her heart racing as she clutched her worn-out backpack. At 16, she was a slender girl with deep brown eyes that sparkled with a mix of sadness and determination. Today, she was traveling to Washington, D.C., a trip she had planned with her mother before the illness took her away. The memories of her mother flooded her mind, making her feel both heavy and hopeful. Maya wore a simple gray hoodie and a pair of old sneakers that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back into a messy bun, with a few loose strands framing her face. She nervously tucked one of those strands behind her ear, glancing around the crowded terminal. The noise of announcements and chatter filled the air, but all she could hear was the echo of her mother's voice, encouraging her to be brave. As she walked through the airport, Maya felt the weight of her backpack pressing against her shoulders. It was more than just a bag. It was a piece of her mother. The initials, LJ, were stitched into the fabric, a reminder of Laura Jackson, the woman who had taught her to stand tall, even when the world tried to push her down. Maya took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage her mother had always believed she had. She spotted a long line forming at the security checkpoint and joined it, her heart pounding. The line moved slowly, and Maya's mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. She was excited to see her relatives, but the journey felt daunting without her mother by her side. Just then, she noticed a man in front of her looking confused as he stood in the wrong line. Maya, feeling a spark of confidence, decided to help. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I think you're in the wrong line. The boarding gate is over there." She pointed to the correct line, hoping he would appreciate her guidance. But instead of gratitude, she felt a sharp glare from a nearby security officer. Mark Thompson, a burly man in his 40s, had been watching her closely. His expression twisted into one of irritation as he approached. "What do you think you're doing, little girl?" he sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think you're the boss here?" Maya's heart sank, but she refused to let his words break her spirit. "I'm just trying to help," she replied calmly, meeting his gaze with her own. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her, some curious, others uncomfortable. But she stood her ground, determined not to let this man intimidate her. Thompson scoffed, crossing his arms. "Help? You're just a kid. You should know your place." His words stung, but Maya remembered her mother's lessons about dignity and respect. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was more than just a girl in a hoodie. As the line moved forward, Maya felt a mix of anger and sadness. Why did he have to treat her this way? She was just trying to do the right thing. The other passengers shifted uncomfortably, some whispering among themselves, but no one stepped in to defend her. Maya felt alone, but she refused to let that feeling consume her. With each step closer to the security checkpoint, she felt her resolve strengthen. She was not just a girl. She was Maya Jackson, and she had a voice. As she approached the metal detector, she glanced back at Thompson, who was still watching her with disdain. She straightened her back, refusing to let him see her fear. In that moment, Maya made a silent promise to herself. No matter what happened today, she would stand tall. She would honor her mother's memory by being brave and true to herself. Little did she know, this day would change everything. The encounter with Thompson was just the beginning of a journey that would test her strength and reveal her true identity. As she stepped through the security gate, Maya felt a flicker of hope. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to show the world that she was more than just a girl in a hoodie. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she would not back down. Hey there, if you're loving Maya's journey, don't forget to subscribe for more. What do you think about Maya's courage in the first chapter? Are you rooting for her? Let us know in the comments below. Maya took a deep breath as she stepped through the security checkpoint, her heart still racing from the earlier encounter with Officer Mark Thompson. She felt a mix of relief and anxiety wash over her. The airport was a whirlwind of activity, with families rushing to catch flights, business people glued to their phones, and children laughing as they chased each other. But for Maya, the noise faded into the background as she focused on what lay ahead. As she moved through the terminal, she spotted a small cafe and decided to grab a quick snack. The smell of fresh coffee and pastries filled the air, making her stomach growl. She ordered a muffin and a bottle of water, trying to shake off the tension from her earlier confrontation. As she waited for her order, she glanced around, observing the people around her. Suddenly, she noticed a man standing in front of her, looking confused. He was tall and had a suitcase that seemed too big for him. Maya could see he was trying to read the flight information on the screen above, but it was clear he was lost. She felt a familiar urge to help. "Excuse me, sir," she said, stepping closer. "Are you looking for your gate? I can help you find it." The man turned to her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Oh, thank you. I'm trying to get to gate 12, but I can't seem to find it." Maya smiled, feeling a sense of purpose. "It's just down that way," she pointed, "and then to the left. You'll see the signs." "Thanks, kid," he said, giving her a warm smile. "You're a lifesaver." Just as she was about to respond, Maya felt a shadow loom over her. It was Officer Thompson, striding toward her with an air of authority. His eyes narrowed as he approached, and Maya's stomach twisted in knots. She had hoped to avoid him, but it seemed he was determined to make his presence known. "What do you think you're doing now?" Thompson barked, his voice loud enough to draw the attention of nearby passengers. "Playing the helpful little girl again?" Maya's heart sank. She had just tried to do something nice, and here he was, ready to belittle her once more. "I was just helping him find his gate," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Thompson scoffed, crossing his arms. "You think you're some kind of airport guide? You should be careful, or you might get yourself into trouble." The man she had just helped looked between Maya and Thompson, confusion etched on his face. "She was just being nice," he said, stepping forward. "There's no need to be rude." Maya felt a flicker of hope at the man's defense, but Thompson's glare only intensified. "Stay out of this," he snapped, turning his attention back to Maya. "You need to learn your place, kid." Maya's cheeks flushed with anger, but she refused to back down. "I know my place," she said firmly, meeting his gaze. "I'm just trying to help people, and there's nothing wrong with that." Thompson's expression hardened, and for a moment Maya feared he might retaliate. But instead, he simply huffed and turned away, muttering under his breath. "Kids these days think they can do whatever they want." As he walked off, Maya felt a rush of relief mixed with adrenaline. She had stood up to him, and it felt empowering. The man smiled at her, clearly impressed. "You handled that well," he said. "Not many people would have the courage to speak up like that." "Thanks," Maya replied, her heart still racing. I can't stand bullies." "Good for you," he said, giving her a thumbs up. "Keep that spirit. You never know when it might come in handy." Maya smiled back, feeling a sense of camaraderie with the stranger. As they chatted for a moment longer, she felt a warmth spreading through her. Maybe she wasn't alone in this fight against injustice. Maybe there were others who would stand with her. After finishing her muffin, Maya glanced at the time. She needed to head to her gate soon. As she walked away, she felt a renewed sense of determination. Officer Thompson might have tried to intimidate her, but she wouldn't let him win. She was Maya Jackson, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each step, she felt stronger, more confident. The airport was a big place, but she was ready to make her mark. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was determined to show everyone that she was more than just a girl in a hoodie. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she would not back down. Maya walked through the airport, her heart still racing from her encounter with Officer Thompson. She felt a mix of determination and anxiety as she made her way toward her gate. The terminal was bustling with travelers, each person lost in their own world. Maya tried to focus on her destination, but the earlier confrontation replayed in her mind like a broken record. As she approached the gate, she noticed a group of passengers gathered around, their faces filled with anticipation. Maya felt a twinge of excitement. Maybe they were all waiting for the same flight. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. She was here to visit family and she wanted to make the most of this trip. Just then, she spotted Officer Thompson again, standing near the entrance to the boarding area. His arms were crossed and he was scanning the crowd with a look of disdain. Maya's stomach twisted at the sight of him. She didn't want to deal with him again, but she knew she had to stay strong. As she approached the gate, she overheard Thompson speaking to another officer. "These kids think they can just do whatever they want," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "They need to learn some respect." Maya felt her cheeks flush with anger. How could he talk about her like that? She hadn't done anything wrong. She was just trying to help, but instead of letting her emotions take over, she took a deep breath and reminded herself of her mother's words. Stand tall, Maya. Always stand tall. With renewed determination, she walked past Thompson, keeping her head high. She could feel his eyes on her, but she refused to let him intimidate her. As she reached the gate, she noticed a few other passengers glancing her way, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Maya felt a surge of confidence. Maybe they were starting to see her for who she really was. Just then, the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. "Attention, passengers of Flight 237 to Washington, D.C., the voice said. "We are now boarding. Please have your boarding passes ready." Maya's heart raced with excitement. She was finally going to see her family. But as she stepped forward to join the line, she felt a hand grip her shoulder. It was Thompson, his grip firm and unyielding. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked, his voice low and threatening. Maya turned to face him, her heart pounding. "I'm just boarding my flight," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Thompson leaned in closer, his breath hot against her face. "You think you can just walk around here acting like you own the place? You need to watch yourself, girl." Maya felt a surge of anger rise within her. How dare he speak to her like that? She took a step back, trying to create some distance. "I'm not doing anything wrong," she said firmly. "I'm just trying to get to my family." Thompson's expression hardened. "You think I care about your family? You need to learn some respect, and I'm going to make sure you do." Maya's heart raced as she realized the situation was escalating. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her, some watching with concern, others with indifference. But she refused to back down. She remembered her mother's strength and the lessons she had learned about standing up for herself. "Respect goes both ways," Maya said, her voice steady. "You don't have to treat me like this." Thompson's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Maya thought he might retaliate. But just then, a woman stepped forward from the crowd. She was older, with kind eyes and a determined expression. "Excuse me, officer," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I think you need to let her go. She hasn't done anything wrong." Maya felt a rush of gratitude toward the woman. It was a small act of bravery, but it made a world of difference. Thompson hesitated, his expression shifting as he glanced at the woman. "Mind your own business," he snapped, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't alone in this fight after all. The woman stood her ground, and Maya felt a surge of strength from her support. "Everyone deserves respect, including her," the woman insisted. "You're supposed to protect and serve, not intimidate." Thompson's face flushed with anger, but he stepped back, clearly caught off guard. Maya seized the moment, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She turned to the woman, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. As the boarding process continued, Maya felt a renewed sense of determination. She was not just a girl in a hoodie. She was a fighter. With each step toward the plane, she felt stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she would not back down. Maya stepped onto the jet bridge, her heart still racing from the confrontation with Officer Thompson. She felt a mix of relief and anxiety as she made her way toward the plane. The smell of jet fuel and the sound of rolling luggage filled the air, but all she could think about was the tension that had just unfolded. She was determined to put it behind her and focus on her family waiting for her in Washington, D.C. As she boarded the plane, Maya found her seat by the window. She settled in, taking a moment to breathe deeply and calm her racing heart. The plane was filled with passengers, some chatting excitedly, others lost in their own thoughts. Maya glanced around, hoping to find a friendly face, but everyone seemed preoccupied. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through pictures of her mother, trying to find comfort in the memories. Just then, the flight attendant came by, checking tickets and helping passengers stow their bags. Maya felt a sense of normalcy return as she watched the attendant smile and assist everyone. But that feeling was short-lived. As the attendant approached her, Maya noticed Officer Thompson standing at the front of the plane, his eyes scanning the cabin. "Excuse me, miss," the flight attendant said, smiling warmly. "Can I help you with your bag?" Maya nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Yes, please. Thank you." As she handed her backpack to the attendant, she felt a sudden chill in the air. Thompson had moved closer, his presence looming over her like a dark cloud. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice low and menacing. Maya looked up, her heart sinking. "I'm just getting settled for my flight," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Thompson smirked, crossing his arms. "You think you can just waltz in here after causing a scene? You're lucky I don't have you removed from this flight." Maya's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her, some glancing over with curiosity, others with concern. She wanted to shrink into her seat, but she forced herself to sit tall. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Wrong? You think correcting people is going to get you anywhere?" Thompson sneered. "You're just a kid. You need to learn your place." Maya felt a wave of humiliation wash over her. How could he say such things? She was just trying to help, and now she felt like a target. The flight attendant, sensing the tension, stepped in. "Officer, please. She's just a passenger like everyone else." Thompson shot her a glare, but the attendant stood her ground. "There's no need for this. Let's keep things professional." Maya felt a flicker of hope at the attendant's defense, but Thompson wasn't backing down. "I'll handle this," he said, his voice dripping with authority. "You should know better than to speak out of turn." Maya's heart raced as she realized the situation was escalating. She could feel the weight of the other passengers' gazes on her, some whispering among themselves. She wanted to scream, to tell Thompson that he was wrong, but the words caught in her throat. "Just sit down and keep quiet," Thompson said, his tone harsh. "You're making a fool of yourself." Maya's eyes burned with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her mother's strength. "I'm not a fool," she said firmly. "I'm just trying to be kind." Thompson laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the small space. "Kindness doesn't get you anywhere in this world, kid. You'll learn that soon enough." As he turned to walk away, Maya felt a surge of anger. She wanted to shout, to tell him that he was wrong, but instead, she clenched her fists and took a deep breath. She wouldn't let him win. She wouldn't let him take away her dignity. The flight attendant returned, her expression sympathetic. "I'm sorry about that," she said softly. "You're doing great. Just ignore him." Maya nodded, grateful for the support. She looked around the cabin, noticing that some passengers were watching her with concern. A few even gave her encouraging smiles. It was a small comfort, but it reminded her that she wasn't alone. As the plane began to taxi down the runway, Maya felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. She was scared, angry, and determined all at once. She wouldn't let Officer Thompson's words define her. She was Maya Jackson, and she had a voice. As the plane lifted off the ground, she looked out the window, watching the world below shrink away. She felt a sense of freedom wash over her. This was her journey, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. No matter what happened, she would stand tall and proud, just like her mother had taught her. Today was just the beginning, and she was ready to fight for her place in the world. As the plane soared higher into the sky, Maya felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She was finally on her way to Washington, D.C., but the earlier encounter with Officer Thompson still weighed heavily on her mind. She tried to focus on the view outside the window, watching the clouds drift by like fluffy cotton candy. But the memory of Thompson's harsh words lingered, making it hard to relax. The flight attendants moved through the aisles, offering snacks and drinks. Maya accepted a small bag of pretzels, grateful for the distraction. She nibbled on them slowly, trying to calm her racing heart. But just as she was starting to feel a little better, she noticed Thompson walking down the aisle, his eyes scanning the passengers. Maya's stomach dropped. She hoped he wouldn't come near her again, but as luck would have it, he stopped right next to her seat. "What's the matter, kid? Still sulking?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Maya looked up, trying to keep her expression neutral. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice steady. She didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing her upset. Thompson leaned closer, his presence looming over her like a dark cloud. "You think you can just act like a know-it-all and get away with it? You're just a child. You need to learn some respect." Maya felt her cheeks flush with anger. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, her voice rising slightly. "I was just trying to help." "Help?" Thompson scoffed. "You think correcting adults is helping? You're just making a fool of yourself. You should know your place." Maya's heart raced as she felt the eyes of other passengers on her. Some were watching with concern, while others seemed to enjoy the drama unfolding before them. She wanted to shrink back into her seat, but she forced herself to sit tall. She wouldn't let him intimidate her. "Why do you have to be so mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm just a kid, trying to do the right thing." Thompson's expression hardened. "You think the world cares about your feelings? You're in for a rude awakening, kid. You need to toughen up." Maya felt a wave of humiliation wash over her. How could he say such things? She was just trying to be kind, and now she felt like a target. The flight attendant, noticing the tension, approached them with a concerned look. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, her voice calm and soothing. Thompson straightened up, his demeanor shifting slightly. "Just having a little chat with this one," he said, his tone dismissive. "Nothing to worry about." Maya could see the flight attendant's eyes narrow slightly. "I think it's best if we keep things respectful on this flight," she said firmly. "Everyone deserves to be treated with kindness." Thompson huffed, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "I'm just doing my job," he said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Maya felt a flicker of hope at the attendant's defense. Maybe she wasn't alone in this fight after all. The attendant turned to Maya, her expression softening. "You're doing great, honey. Just ignore him." Maya nodded, grateful for the support. As the attendant walked away, she felt a surge of strength. She wouldn't let Thompson's words define her. She was Maya Jackson, and she had a voice. But just as she thought things might settle down, Thompson leaned in closer again. "You think you're special because you have someone backing you up? You're not," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You're just a kid who doesn't know her place." Maya's heart raced, but she refused to let fear take over. "I know my place," she said firmly. "I'm a person, just like you. I deserve respect." Thompson's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Maya thought he might retaliate. But instead, he stepped back, clearly caught off guard by her response. "You'll regret talking back to me," he warned, his voice cold. As he walked away, Maya felt a mix of relief and anger. She had stood up to him, and it felt empowering. But the humiliation of the situation still lingered. She glanced around the cabin, noticing that some passengers were watching her with concern, while others seemed indifferent. Maya took a deep breath, reminding herself of her mother's strength. She wouldn't let Thompson's words break her spirit. She was determined to rise above the negativity and focus on what truly mattered: her family and the love they shared. As the flight continued, Maya looked out the window, watching the clouds drift by. She felt a sense of freedom wash over her. This was her journey, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. No matter what happened, she would stand tall and proud, just like her mother had taught her. Today was just the beginning, and she was ready to fight for her place in the world. With each passing moment, she felt stronger, more determined to show everyone that she was more than just a girl in a hoodie. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she would not back down. As the plane cruised smoothly through the sky, Maya tried to focus on the excitement of reaching Washington, D.C. She could almost picture her relatives waiting for her at the airport, their smiles brightening her day. But the earlier encounters with Officer Thompson still haunted her thoughts, making it hard to shake off the tension. Suddenly, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be beginning our descent shortly." Please make sure your seatbelts are fastened and your seats are in the upright position. Maya felt a flutter of anticipation in her stomach. Soon, she would be on solid ground, ready to embrace her family. As the plane began to descend, the flight attendants started preparing for landing. Maya watched as they moved through the aisles, collecting trash and ensuring everyone was ready. She felt a sense of normalcy return, but just as she was starting to relax, she noticed Thompson standing at the front of the plane again, his eyes scanning the cabin. Maya's heart sank. She hoped he wouldn't come near her, but as the plane came to a stop at the gate, she saw him striding down the aisle, his expression serious. "Everyone, please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is turned off," he announced, his voice booming. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She didn't want to deal with him again, but she knew she had to stay strong. As the passengers began to unbuckle their seatbelts, Thompson approached her seat. "You," he said, pointing a finger at her. "I need to speak with you." Maya's heart raced. "What about?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just step outside for a moment," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I need to have a word with you." Maya felt a wave of panic wash over her. She didn't want to leave the safety of the plane, especially not with Thompson. "I'm not doing anything wrong," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Thompson stepped closer, his presence intimidating. "You think you can just ignore me? You've been a problem since we boarded. I'm not going to let you get away with it." Maya's cheeks flushed with anger. "I haven't done anything wrong. I was just trying to help people." "Help?" Thompson scoffed. "You think correcting adults is helping? You're just making a fool of yourself." Maya felt the eyes of other passengers on her, some watching with concern, others with indifference. She wanted to shrink back into her seat, but she forced herself to sit tall. "I'm not a fool," she said firmly. "I'm just trying to be kind." Thompson's expression hardened. "You need to learn your place, kid. You're not special just because you think you can speak up." Just then, a voice interrupted them. "Excuse me, officer," a woman said, stepping forward. She was older, with a kind face and a determined expression. "I think you need to leave her alone. She hasn't done anything wrong." Maya felt a rush of gratitude toward the woman. It was a small act of bravery, but it made a world of difference. Thompson turned to the woman, his expression darkening. "This doesn't concern you," he snapped. "It does concern me," the woman replied, her voice steady. "You're bullying a child, and it's not right." Maya's heart swelled with hope. Maybe she wasn't alone in this fight after all. The woman stood her ground, and Maya felt a surge of strength from her support. Thompson hesitated, clearly caught off guard by the woman's defense. "I'm just doing my job," he said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Your job is to protect and serve, not intimidate," the woman insisted. "You need to treat everyone with respect, including her." Maya watched as Thompson's face flushed with anger. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, the flight attendant returned, sensing the tension. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, her voice calm and soothing. Thompson straightened up, his demeanor shifting slightly. "Just having a little chat," he said dismissively. The flight attendant looked at Maya, her expression softening. "You're doing great, honey. Just ignore him," she said, giving Maya an encouraging smile. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. With the support of the woman and the flight attendant, she felt stronger. She wouldn't let Thompson's words define her. As the passengers began to disembark, Maya took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions. She was scared, angry, and determined all at once. She wouldn't let Thompson's bullying break her spirit. She was Maya Jackson, and she had a voice. As she stepped off the plane, she felt the cool air of the airport wash over her. She was finally in Washington, D.C., ready to embrace her family and the love they shared. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each step, she felt stronger, more determined to show everyone that she was more than just a girl in a hoodie. She was a force to be reckoned with, and she would not back down. As Maya stepped off the plane and into the bustling terminal, she felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. The bright lights and the sound of rolling luggage filled the air, but her mind was still racing from the confrontation with Officer Thompson. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the tension. She was finally in Washington, D.C., and she wanted to focus on the joy of seeing her family. Maya scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces. She could already picture her aunt and cousins waiting for her, their smiles wide and welcoming. But just as she was about to step forward, she felt a familiar presence behind her. It was Thompson, striding through the terminal with purpose, his eyes locked on her. "Hey, you," he called out, his voice cutting through the noise of the airport. Maya's heart sank. She had hoped to leave him behind on the plane, but it seemed he was determined to continue their confrontation. Maya turned slowly, trying to keep her composure. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Thompson approached her, his expression hardening. "You think you can just walk away after causing a scene? You're not off the hook yet," he said, his tone menacing. Maya felt a surge of anger. "I didn't do anything wrong," she replied, her voice rising slightly. "I was just trying to help people." "Help?" Thompson scoffed, stepping closer. "You think correcting adults is helping? You're just a kid who doesn't know her place." Maya's cheeks flushed with humiliation. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her, some watching with concern, others with indifference. But she refused to let him intimidate her. "I know my place," she said firmly. "I'm a person, just like you. I deserve respect." Thompson's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Maya thought he might retaliate. But just then, a group of passengers walked by, and one of them, a tall man in a suit, stopped to listen. "Is everything okay here?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Maya seized the opportunity. "No, it's not," she said, her voice steady. "This officer is bullying me for no reason." The man looked at Thompson, his expression serious. "You need to back off, officer. There's no reason to treat her like this." Thompson's face flushed with anger, but he stepped back slightly, clearly caught off guard by the man's intervention. "I'm just doing my job," he said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Your job is to protect and serve, not intimidate," the man replied firmly. "You should be ashamed of yourself." Maya felt a rush of gratitude toward the man. It was a small act of bravery, but it made a world of difference. She wasn't alone in this fight after all. The man stood his ground, and Maya felt a surge of strength from his support. Thompson's expression darkened, and he turned to Maya. "You think you're special just because someone is backing you up? You're not," he said, his voice low and threatening. Maya's heart raced, but she refused to back down. "I'm not special. I'm just a kid who deserves to be treated with respect," she said, her voice steady. The man nodded in agreement. "Exactly. Everyone deserves respect, including her. You need to understand that." Thompson huffed, clearly annoyed by the confrontation. "This isn't over," he warned, his eyes narrowing at Maya. "You'll regret talking back to me." Maya felt a mix of fear and determination. She wouldn't let him win. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, her voice strong. "I'm going to stand up for myself." As Thompson turned to walk away, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had stood up to him, and it felt empowering. The man smiled at her, clearly impressed. "You did great," he said. "Not many people would have the courage to speak up like that." "Thank you," Maya replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I just want to be treated fairly." "You deserve it," he said, giving her a reassuring nod. "Keep that spirit. You never know when it might come in handy." As the man walked away, Maya felt a renewed sense of strength. She was not just a girl in a hoodie, she was a fighter. She had faced Thompson's bullying and stood her ground, and that made all the difference. With each step through the terminal, she felt more confident. She was ready to embrace her family and the love they shared. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was determined to show everyone that she was more than just a victim. She was Maya Jackson, and she would not back down. As she approached the baggage claim area, she spotted her aunt waving excitedly. Maya's heart soared. She was finally home, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With her family by her side, she felt unstoppable. Maya stepped into the bustling baggage claim area, her heart racing with excitement and relief. She had finally made it to Washington, D.C., and the thought of reuniting with her family filled her with joy. But the earlier confrontation with Officer Thompson still lingered in her mind, casting a shadow over her happiness. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the tension as she scanned the crowd for her aunt. As she moved through the throng of travelers, she felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. The noise of laughter, announcements, and rolling suitcases surrounded her, but all she could think about was the way Thompson had treated her. She had stood up for herself, but the memory of his harsh words still stung. Just then, she spotted her aunt, Lisa, waving enthusiastically from across the room. Maya's heart soared as she rushed toward her. "Aunt Lisa!" she called out, her voice filled with excitement. "Maya!" Lisa exclaimed, wrapping her arms around her tightly. "I'm so glad to see you. How was your flight?" "It was good, but there was this officer," Maya started, but Lisa interrupted her. "Let's get your bags first, and then we can talk," Lisa said, pulling back to look at Maya's face. "You look a little shaken. Are you okay?" Maya nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just a little tired." As they made their way to the baggage carousel, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She glanced around, noticing several passengers looking her way, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. It was as if they had witnessed the earlier confrontation and were silently supporting her. "Here it comes," Lisa said, pointing to the carousel as Maya's suitcase appeared. She felt a rush of relief as she grabbed the handle and pulled it off the conveyor belt. "Thanks for coming to get me," Maya said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I missed you." "I missed you too, sweetie," Lisa replied, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "Now, let's get you settled in. Your cousins are so excited to see you." As they walked toward the exit, Maya couldn't help but glance back at the crowd. She noticed a few people still watching her, their expressions sympathetic. It made her feel a little less alone, knowing that there were others who understood what she had gone through. Once outside, the fresh air hit Maya's face and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. The sun was shining brightly, and the warmth felt comforting. Lisa led her to the car, and as they drove through the city, Maya took in the sights. The tall buildings, the bustling streets, and the vibrant energy of Washington, D.C. filled her with excitement. "Tell me everything," Lisa said, glancing at Maya as they stopped at a red light. "How was your trip? Did anything interesting happen?" Maya hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to explain the confrontation with Thompson. She didn't want to ruin the happy moment, but she also felt the need to share her experience. "Well, there was this officer at the airport," she began, recounting the story of how Thompson had treated her. As she spoke, Lisa listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to anger. "That's unacceptable," she exclaimed. "No one should treat you like that, especially not someone in a position of authority." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of validation. "I tried to stand up for myself, but it was really hard," she admitted. "I just wanted to help people." "You did the right thing by speaking up," Lisa said firmly. "You have every right to stand up for yourself. I'm proud of you." Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest at her aunt's words. It was comforting to know that she had someone in her corner, someone who believed in her. As they continued to drive, Maya felt the weight of the earlier confrontation begin to lift. When they finally arrived at Lisa's house, Maya was greeted by the excited squeals of her cousins. "Maya, you're here!" they shouted, rushing to hug her. The warmth of their welcome filled her with joy, and she felt a sense of belonging wash over her. As they settled in, Maya realized that she was ready to embrace this new chapter of her life. The challenges she faced at the airport had only made her stronger, and she was determined to make the most of her time with her family. With her cousins laughing and playing around her, Maya felt a renewed sense of hope. She was not just a girl in a hoodie. She was Maya Jackson, and she was ready to face whatever came her way. The love of her family surrounded her, and she knew that together, they could overcome anything. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was excited to see where it would lead. Maya felt a wave of warmth wash over her as she embraced her cousins, their laughter filling the air like music. The chaos of the airport and the confrontation with Officer Thompson faded into the background as she stepped into her Aunt Lisa's home. It was a cozy place, filled with the smell of freshly baked cookies and the sound of her family bustling around. For the first time that day, she felt a sense of peace. After settling in, Maya joined her cousins in the living room. They were excitedly discussing their plans for the weekend, and Maya couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. "We're going to the park tomorrow," her younger cousin Lily exclaimed. "You have to come with us." "Of course, I wouldn't miss it," Maya replied, her heart swelling with joy. It felt good to be surrounded by family, to feel their love and support. But just as she was starting to relax, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a message from a friend back home. "Did you hear about the incident at the airport?" it read. "People are talking about it online." Maya's heart sank. She had hoped to leave the negativity behind, but it seemed that the confrontation with Thompson had made its way into the public eye. She quickly typed a response, trying to brush it off. "I'm fine, just a misunderstanding," she replied, but her fingers trembled as she hit send. "Who are you texting?" Lily asked, peering over her shoulder. "Just a friend," Maya said, forcing a smile. "Nothing important." As the evening wore on, Maya tried to push the incident from her mind. They played games, watched movies, and shared stories, and for a while she felt like a normal teenager again. But the nagging feeling in the back of her mind wouldn't go away. She couldn't shake the worry that people were judging her for what had happened. Later that night, as everyone settled down for bed, Maya found herself lying awake, staring at the ceiling. The events of the day replayed in her mind like a movie. She thought about Thompson's harsh words, the way he had tried to belittle her, and how she had stood up for herself. But even with that strength, she couldn't help but feel humiliated. Just then, she heard a soft knock on her door. It was Lisa, peeking her head in. "Hey, Maya, can I come in?" she asked gently. "Of course," Maya replied, sitting up in bed. "What's up?" Lisa entered and sat on the edge of the bed, her expression warm and understanding. "I just wanted to check on you. I know today was a lot to handle," she said softly. Maya sighed, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on her. "It was. I thought I could just enjoy my time here, but then I found out people are talking about what happened at the airport." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with empathy. "I saw some posts online too. It's frustrating how quickly things can spread, but you have to remember that what matters is how you feel about yourself, not what others think." "I know, but it's hard," Maya admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to help, and now it feels like everyone is judging me." "You did the right thing by standing up for yourself," Lisa said firmly. "Not everyone has the courage to do that. You should be proud of yourself, not ashamed." Maya looked down, her heart heavy. "I just wish it hadn't happened at all. I don't want to be known as the girl who got bullied by a cop." Lisa reached out and placed a comforting hand on Maya's shoulder. "You're so much more than that. You're strong, brave, and kind. Don't let one person's actions define you. You have a whole life ahead of you, and this is just a small part of your story." Maya felt a flicker of hope at her aunt's words. "Thanks, Aunt Lisa. I really appreciate you being here for me." "Always," Lisa replied with a smile. "Now, let's get some rest. Tomorrow is a new day, and I want you to enjoy every moment of it." As Lisa left the room, Maya lay back down, feeling a little lighter. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She wouldn't let Thompson's words or the opinions of strangers hold her back. She was Maya Jackson, and she was ready to embrace her journey. With that thought in mind, she drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited her in Washington, D.C. Tomorrow would be a new day, and she was determined to make the most of it. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage and strength, just like her mother had taught her. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, casting warm rays across Maya's face. She stirred awake, feeling a sense of excitement bubbling inside her. Today was the day she would explore Washington, D.C. with her family, and she was determined to make the most of it. The events of the previous day felt distant, overshadowed by the promise of new adventures. After a quick breakfast filled with laughter and chatter, Maya and her cousins piled into the car, ready to hit the road. Lisa drove, her enthusiasm infectious as she pointed out landmarks along the way. "Look over there! That's the Washington Monument," she exclaimed, and the kids pressed their faces against the windows, eyes wide with wonder. Maya felt a thrill of excitement as they approached the National Mall. The sprawling green space was filled with tourists, families, and history. She could hardly contain her joy as they parked the car and stepped out into the bustling atmosphere. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter, conversations, and the distant music of street performers. "Where should we go first?" Lily asked, bouncing on her toes. "How about the Lincoln Memorial?" Maya suggested, her heart racing at the thought of seeing such an iconic landmark. "I've always wanted to see it in person." "Great idea," her older cousin Jake agreed. "Let's go." As they walked toward the memorial, Maya felt a sense of freedom wash over her. The worries of the past few days began to fade as she immersed herself in the beauty of the city. The towering columns of the Lincoln Memorial loomed ahead, and Maya's excitement grew with each step. When they finally reached the steps, Maya looked up in awe at the massive statue of Abraham Lincoln seated before them. The sight was breathtaking, and she felt a sense of reverence wash over her. "Wow," she whispered, taking it all in. "Isn't it amazing?" Lisa said, standing beside her. "This is where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech." Maya's heart swelled with pride as she thought about the history that surrounded her. She could feel the weight of the moment, the significance of standing in a place where so many had fought for justice and equality. It inspired her to think about her own journey and the challenges she had faced. As they explored the memorial, Maya noticed a group of people nearby, some taking pictures and others engaged in conversation. Among them, she spotted a familiar face, Officer Thompson. He was standing with a few other officers, laughing and joking, seemingly unaware of the impact he had made on her life. Maya's heart raced as she felt a mix of anger and fear. She wanted to confront him, to tell him how his words had affected her, but the thought of facing him again made her stomach churn. She turned to Lisa, her voice trembling. "That's him. That's the officer from the airport." Lisa followed her gaze, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I don't know," Maya admitted, her heart pounding. "I just feel so angry. He treated me like I was nothing." "Maya, remember what we talked about last night," Lisa said gently. "You are strong, and you have every right to stand up for yourself, but you don't have to confront him if you don't want to." Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. She didn't want to let Thompson ruin her day, but the anger bubbled inside her. "I just wish I could show him that he can't treat people like that," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Maybe you can," Lisa suggested, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "You have a voice, and you can use it to inspire others. You don't have to let him define who you are." Maya nodded, feeling a surge of strength. She didn't have to confront Thompson directly, but she could use her experience to empower herself and others. "You're right," she said, her voice steady. "I won't let him take away my joy today." With renewed determination, Maya turned away from Thompson and focused on her family. They continued to explore the memorial, taking pictures and sharing stories. As they climbed the steps and admired the view of the reflecting pool, Maya felt a sense of peace wash over her. In that moment, she realized that she was more than just a girl who had faced bullying. She was Maya Jackson, a young woman with dreams, hopes, and a voice that mattered. She would not let one person's actions define her. As they left the Lincoln Memorial, Maya felt lighter, ready to embrace the day ahead. She was surrounded by love and support, and she knew that she could face any challenge that came her way. Today was a new beginning, and she was excited to see where her journey would lead. With her family by her side, Maya felt unstoppable. She was ready to make her mark on the world, one step at a time. After exploring the Lincoln Memorial, Maya and her family decided to take a stroll along the reflecting pool. The sun glimmered on the water, creating a beautiful scene that made Maya feel alive. She laughed and played with her cousins, forgetting all about the tension from the airport. The joy of being with her family filled her heart, and she felt a sense of belonging that she had missed. As they walked, Maya noticed a group of people gathered near the edge of the pool. They were taking pictures and chatting excitedly. Curiosity piqued, Maya and her cousins wandered over to see what was happening. As they approached, she recognized a familiar face among the crowd, Daniel, a family friend and a well-respected lawyer. "Daniel!" Maya called out, waving her hand. He turned and smiled, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Maya, "It's great to see you," he said, walking over to give her a warm hug. "How's your trip going?" "It's amazing. I'm having so much fun with my family," she replied, her excitement bubbling over. "We just visited the Lincoln Memorial." "That's wonderful. It's such an important place," Daniel said, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "You know, I was just talking to some friends about the importance of standing up for what's right. It's something we all need to remember." Maya felt a spark of interest. "What do you mean?" she asked, eager to hear more. Daniel glanced around, ensuring the conversation was private. "Well, I heard about what happened at the airport," he said quietly. "I want you to know that you did the right thing by standing up for yourself. It takes courage to speak out, especially when someone in authority tries to put you down." Maya's heart raced. She hadn't realized that news of her confrontation with Officer Thompson had spread. "You heard about it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, it's been making the rounds," Daniel admitted. "But don't let that discourage you. What matters is how you handle it moving forward. You have a voice, and you can use it to inspire others." Maya felt a mix of emotions: fear, embarrassment, but also a flicker of pride. "I just wanted to help people," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But it felt like I was being punished for it." Daniel nodded, his expression serious. "That's often how it goes. People in power can sometimes forget that their actions have consequences. But you have the opportunity to turn this experience into something positive. You can be a voice for others who might feel powerless." Maya thought about his words, feeling a sense of empowerment wash over her. "You really think I can make a difference?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. "Absolutely," Daniel replied, his voice firm. "You've already shown that you're brave enough to stand up for yourself. Imagine how many others might feel inspired by your story. You can help them find their voices too." Just then, a commotion broke out among the crowd. Maya turned to see Officer Thompson approaching, flanked by a couple of other officers. Her heart raced at the sight of him, but she reminded herself of Daniel's words. She wouldn't let fear control her. "Hey, look who it is," one of the officers called out, laughing. "It's the girl who thinks she can tell adults what to do." Maya felt her cheeks flush with anger, but she stood her ground. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, her voice steady. "I know what I did was right." Thompson's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his face. "You think you're special because you stood up to me?" he sneered. "You're just a kid." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the support of her family and Daniel behind her. "I may be a kid, but I deserve respect just like anyone else," she replied, her voice strong. "And so does everyone else." The crowd around them began to murmur, some nodding in agreement. Maya felt a surge of confidence as she realized that she wasn't alone. People were starting to see her for who she truly was, a young woman with a voice that mattered. Daniel stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Officer, I think it's time you recognize that your actions have consequences. Bullying a child is unacceptable, and it's time to reflect on how you treat others." Thompson's face turned red with anger, but he didn't respond. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving Maya standing tall in the face of adversity. The crowd began to applaud, and Maya felt a rush of pride swell within her. In that moment, she realized that she had the power to make a difference. She was Maya Jackson, and she would not be silenced. Today was a turning point, and she was ready to embrace her journey with courage and strength. With her family and friends by her side, she felt unstoppable. The applause from the crowd echoed in Maya's ears, filling her with a sense of empowerment she had never felt before. She stood tall, her heart racing as she faced Officer Thompson, who had just turned away in defeat. The moment felt surreal, like a scene from a movie where the underdog finally stands up to the bully. But this was real life, and Maya was living it. Daniel stepped closer to Maya, his expression proud. "You did an amazing job," he said, his voice filled with encouragement. "You stood up for yourself and for others. That takes real courage." Maya felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you for being here," she replied, her voice steady. "I couldn't have done it without your support." As the crowd began to disperse, Maya noticed that some people were still watching her, their expressions filled with admiration. It was a strange feeling, being in the spotlight, but she embraced it. She had faced her fears and stood up for what was right, and now she felt stronger than ever. Just then, a familiar voice broke through the noise. "Maya, there you are." It was her Aunt Lisa, rushing toward her with a look of concern. "I saw everything from a distance. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Aunt Lisa," Maya said, her heart still racing. I stood up to him. I couldn't let him treat me like that anymore." Lisa's eyes widened with pride. "I'm so proud of you. You showed him that you won't be intimidated. That takes real strength." Maya smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It felt good to finally say something," she admitted. "I didn't want to let him control how I felt anymore." As they spoke, Daniel joined them, his expression serious. "Maya, I think it's important to talk about what just happened. You have a unique opportunity here to share your story and inspire others." Maya's heart raced at the thought. "You really think so?" she asked, her voice filled with hope. "Absolutely," Daniel replied. "Your experience can help others who might be facing similar situations. You can show them that it's okay to stand up for themselves." Maya felt a mix of excitement and fear. "But what if people don't believe me? What if they think I'm just a kid?" "Your voice matters, Maya," Lisa said firmly. "You have the power to make a difference. Don't underestimate yourself." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their words. She thought about all the kids who might be afraid to speak up, just like she had been. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "I want to share my story." "Great," Daniel said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Let's find a way to get your message out there. We can start by reaching out to local organizations that focus on bullying and empowerment." As they discussed their plans, Maya felt a surge of determination. She was ready to turn her experience into something positive. She wouldn't let Officer Thompson's actions define her. Instead, she would use them to inspire others. Suddenly, a voice interrupted their conversation. "What's going on here?" It was Officer Thompson again, his expression dark and confrontational. He had returned, flanked by 2 other officers, and Maya felt her heart race. "Are you here to bully me again?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "I'm not afraid of you." Thompson's eyes narrowed and he stepped closer. "You think you can just make a scene and get away with it? You're just a kid who doesn't know what she's talking about." Maya felt a surge of anger, but she remembered Daniel's words. "I may be a kid, but I know what's right," she said firmly, "and I won't let you intimidate me anymore." The crowd around them began to gather again, sensing the tension in the air. Maya could feel their eyes on her, and she took a deep breath, drawing strength from their presence. "You don't have the power to control how I feel or how I stand up for myself," she continued, her voice rising with confidence. Thompson hesitated, clearly taken aback by her defiance. "You think this is a game?" he sneered, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "No, it's not a game," Maya replied, her heart pounding. "It's my life, and I deserve to be treated with respect. You need to understand that your actions have consequences." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, and Maya felt a wave of support wash over her. She was no longer just a girl in a hoodie. She was a young woman with a voice that mattered. As Thompson stood there, his expression shifting from anger to confusion, Maya realized that she had the power to change the narrative. She wouldn't let fear hold her back any longer. Today was her day, and she was ready to embrace it fully. With the support of her family and the crowd around her, Maya felt unstoppable. She was ready to take on the world, one step at a time. As the tension in the air thickened, Maya stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. She had just confronted Officer Thompson, and the crowd around her buzzed with energy, their eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. But just as she felt the weight of the moment, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. "Maya, where are you?" It was her father, Robert Jackson, his voice cutting through the noise like a beacon of hope. Maya turned to see him striding toward her, flanked by a couple of security personnel. His expression was a mix of concern and determination. "Dad!" Maya exclaimed, relief flooding through her. She rushed toward him, feeling the warmth of his presence wash over her. "I'm so glad you're here." Robert knelt down to her level, his eyes searching hers. "I heard about what happened at the airport. Are you okay?" His voice was filled with worry, but there was also a strength that made Maya feel safe. "I'm fine, Dad. I stood up to him," she said, her voice steady. "I didn't let him bully me." Robert's expression shifted to one of pride. "That's my girl," he said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'm so proud of you for speaking up. You have no idea how important that is." As they hugged, Maya felt a surge of strength. With her father by her side, she felt invincible. She pulled back to look at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for coming. I didn't know what to do." "I'll always be here for you," Robert replied, his voice firm. "Now, let's see what's going on with this officer." Maya turned to face Thompson, who stood a few feet away, his expression darkening as he realized Robert was there. The crowd had grown, and people were whispering among themselves, their eyes darting between Maya, her father, and the officer. "Officer Thompson," Robert said, his voice calm but authoritative. "I need to know what happened here. My daughter deserves to be treated with respect, and I won't tolerate any form of bullying." Thompson shifted uncomfortably, clearly taken aback by Robert's presence. "I was just doing my job," he said defensively, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Your job is to protect and serve, not intimidate," Robert replied, his tone unwavering. "Maya has every right to stand up for herself, and you need to understand that your actions have consequences." Maya watched as her father confronted Thompson, feeling a mix of pride and admiration. Robert was a respected judge, known for his fairness and integrity. She knew he would stand up for what was right, and it made her heart swell to see him in action. "I didn't mean to cause a scene," Thompson said, his voice faltering. "I was just trying to maintain order." "Order?" Robert echoed, his voice rising slightly. "You call bullying a child maintaining order? That's not how you earn respect." The crowd around them began to murmur in agreement, and Maya felt a wave of support wash over her. She was no longer alone in this fight. With her father by her side and the crowd rallying behind her, she felt empowered. "Sir, I think it's time for you to reflect on your actions," Robert continued, his gaze steady. "You need to understand that your words and behavior have a lasting impact on those you interact with. It's time to take responsibility." Maya watched as Thompson's expression shifted from defiance to uncertainty. He looked around at the crowd, realizing that he was no longer in control of the situation. The support for Maya was palpable, and she felt a surge of hope. "Maybe I overreacted," Thompson finally admitted, his voice quieter. "I didn't mean to upset anyone." Maya took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and empowerment. "It's not just about overreacting," she said, her voice steady. "It's about treating people with respect, no matter their age. Everyone deserves to be heard." Robert nodded in agreement, his expression proud. "Exactly. We all have a responsibility to treat each other with kindness and understanding." As the crowd began to disperse, Maya felt a sense of closure wash over her. She had faced her fears, stood up for herself, and now she had the support of her father and the community. It was a turning point in her journey, and she was ready to embrace it. "Let's get out of here," Robert said, placing a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. "I think it's time for some ice cream to celebrate your bravery." Maya laughed, feeling lighter than she had in days. "That sounds perfect." As they walked away from the scene, hand in hand, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was Maya Jackson, and she was ready to take on the world. With her family by her side, she knew she could face any challenge that came her way. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was excited to see where it would lead. As Maya and her father walked away from the crowd, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. The confrontation with Officer Thompson had been intense, but with her father by her side, she felt stronger than ever. The sun shone brightly overhead, and the warmth of the day matched the warmth in her heart. She was ready to celebrate her bravery and the support of her family. "Where to next?" Robert asked, glancing down at Maya with a smile. "I think we deserve a treat after all that excitement." Maya grinned, her spirits lifting. "Ice cream!" she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Can we go to that place with all the flavors?" "Absolutely," Robert replied, chuckling. "Let's find the best ice cream shop in D.C." As they made their way to the ice cream shop, Maya felt a sense of freedom. The earlier events at the airport seemed to fade away, replaced by the joy of being with her family. She and her father chatted about everything and nothing, sharing stories and laughter as they walked. When they arrived at the ice cream shop, the colorful display of flavors made Maya's mouth water. There were so many choices: chocolate, strawberry, mint chocolate chip, and even some unique flavors like lavender honey and matcha green tea. Maya felt a rush of excitement as she scanned the options. "What are you thinking?" Robert asked, watching her with amusement. "I can't decide," Maya replied, her eyes wide with wonder. "They all look so good. Why not try a few?" he suggested, grinning. "You can get a scoop of 2 different flavors." Maya's face lit up at the idea. "That's a great idea. I'll get chocolate and strawberry." As they ordered their ice cream, Maya felt a sense of normalcy returning. It was a simple pleasure, but it reminded her of the times she had shared with her family before everything had changed. She took her cone, the creamy ice cream melting in the warmth of the sun, and felt a wave of happiness wash over her. "Let's find a place to sit," Robert said, leading her to a nearby bench. They settled down, and Maya took a big bite of her ice cream, savoring the rich flavors. "This is amazing," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "I'm so glad we came here." Robert smiled, watching her with pride. "You deserve this, Maya. You've shown so much courage today. I'm proud of how you handled everything." Maya felt her heart swell at her father's words. "Thank you, Dad. It means a lot to me that you were here. I don't think I could have done it without your support." Robert reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're stronger than you realize. You stood up for yourself and for others, and that's something to be proud of." As they enjoyed their ice cream, Maya reflected on the day's events. She had faced her fears, stood up to someone who had tried to intimidate her, and found her voice. It was a turning point in her life, and she felt a sense of empowerment that she had never experienced before. "Dad, do you think I can really make a difference?" she asked, her voice thoughtful. "Absolutely," Robert replied, his tone serious. "Your voice matters, Maya. You have the power to inspire others and to stand up for what's right. Don't ever forget that." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of determination. She wanted to use her experience to help others who might be facing similar challenges. "I want to share my story," she said, her voice steady. "I want to show other kids that it's okay to stand up for themselves." "That's a wonderful idea," Robert said, his eyes shining with pride. "You can reach out to schools or organizations that focus on bullying and empowerment. Your story can inspire others to find their voices." Maya felt a surge of excitement at the thought. "I can do that. I want to help kids who feel scared or alone." As they finished their ice cream, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to embrace her journey and make a difference in the world. With her father by her side and the support of her family, she knew she could face any challenge that came her way. "Thank you for believing in me, Dad," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Always, Maya. I'll always be here to support you," Robert replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Now, let's go explore some more. There's a whole city waiting for us." With that, they stood up, hand in hand, ready to take on the world together. Maya felt a sense of excitement bubbling inside her as they walked through the vibrant streets of Washington, D.C. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was ready to make her mark. As Maya and her father strolled through the bustling streets of Washington, D.C., she felt a sense of exhilaration. The sun shone brightly overhead, and the city was alive with energy. Tourists and locals alike filled the sidewalks, and the sounds of laughter and conversation surrounded them. Maya couldn't help but smile, feeling grateful for the day and the experiences that had shaped her. "Where to next?" Robert asked, glancing down at Maya with a twinkle in his eye. "Can we go to the National Gallery of Art?" Maya suggested, her excitement bubbling over. "I've always wanted to see the paintings there." "Absolutely, let's go," Robert replied, leading the way. As they walked, Maya felt a sense of freedom. The earlier confrontation with Officer Thompson felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the joy of being with her family and exploring the city. When they arrived at the National Gallery, Maya was in awe of the grand entrance. The building was magnificent, with tall columns and beautiful architecture. As they stepped inside, she felt a rush of excitement. The gallery was filled with stunning artwork, and she couldn't wait to see it all. "Wow," Maya whispered, taking in the beauty around her. "This is incredible." They wandered through the galleries, admiring the paintings and sculptures. Maya was captivated by the vibrant colors and the stories each piece told. She felt inspired by the creativity and talent of the artists, and it sparked a desire within her to express herself through art. "Do you like painting?" Robert asked, noticing her fascination. "I love it. I've always wanted to try painting more seriously," Maya replied, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Maybe I could take some classes when I get back home." "That sounds like a great idea," Robert encouraged. "Art is a wonderful way to express yourself and share your experiences with others." As they continued to explore the gallery, Maya felt a sense of empowerment growing within her. She had faced her fears, stood up for herself, and now she was ready to embrace her passions. She wanted to use her voice and creativity to inspire others, just as she had been inspired by the art around her. After spending hours in the gallery, Maya and Robert decided to take a break in the museum's cafe. They found a cozy table by the window, and Maya ordered a slice of cake and a hot chocolate. As they sat together, she felt a sense of contentment wash over her. "Today has been amazing," Maya said, taking a sip of her hot chocolate. "I feel like I can do anything." "You can," Robert replied, his voice filled with warmth. "You've shown so much courage and strength. Remember, it's not just about standing up for yourself, it's about using your voice to help others too." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of purpose. "I want to share my story and help kids who feel scared or alone. I want them to know they're not alone." "That's a beautiful goal," Robert said, his eyes shining with pride. "You have the power to make a difference, Maya. Your experiences can inspire others to find their voices." As they finished their snacks, Maya felt a renewed sense of determination. She was ready to take action and make her dreams a reality. She wanted to reach out to schools and organizations, sharing her story and encouraging others to stand up for themselves. After leaving the cafe, they continued their exploration of the city, visiting monuments and soaking in the rich history around them. Maya felt a sense of connection to the past, knowing that she was part of a larger story, a story of resilience, courage, and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the city, Maya and Robert found themselves at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial once again. The statue of Abraham Lincoln loomed above them, a symbol of strength and justice. "Dad, I want to take a picture here," Maya said, pulling out her phone. "This moment feels important." "Let's capture it," Robert replied, standing beside her. They posed together, smiles on their faces, and Maya felt a sense of pride in what she had accomplished. As they took the picture, Maya realized that this day was not just about exploring a new city. It was about embracing her journey and the person she was becoming. She was Maya Jackson, a young woman with a voice, ready to make a difference in the world. With her father by her side and the support of her family, she felt unstoppable. Today was just the beginning of her journey, and she was excited to see where it would lead. As they walked away from the memorial, hand in hand, Maya felt a sense of hope and determination. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that she had the strength to overcome them.